the Department of Education and funding hubs for students with disabilities. How will you respond to that?
Yeah, you know, one of the most distasteful things about what the Trump administration is doing is the glee with which they do it. They pick on someone, they pick on someone, and they wave around chainsaws, right? You know, and actually, it's another example of a Republican behaving decently. It was, I think, the senator from Utah who took over Mitt Romney's seat. Okay, maybe there's something about that seat that makes you a decent human being. But he said, "What are you doing, firing people in the most cruel manner possible?" And then when you're a Republican and say that, you're actually getting out there. And they're not yet voting to reverse those, but that's a start. And that is what we have to, one of the things we have to do is try to encourage to one by one, an issue by issue. One senator because of the outrage over Ukraine, another senator over the gleeful firing of people who are just trying to do a good job for the taxpayers in the United States. You know, there is waste in government, and we fight that every single year. You know, any bureaucracy will naturally grow unless you sort of lean it out, and we have a process for that. It's the budget process. We go through, we ask, you know, internally in each agency, and then, you know, they come up with a proposal for next year. Their bosses look it over and say, okay, this should be increased, that should be decreased. You know, my wife was actually very deep in this process in the Department of Energy. She was second in command of the energy, the science division of the energy department when she quit to work on my campaign. But she had been working on the budget for years, watching this work, and it's a pretty decent system. And when you find that there's a section of government that's bigger than you actually need, you don't just sit there and fire the last 30 people you hired. You say, okay, we're going to downsize this, come up with a plan to gracefully change the head count, offer the people whose jobs will be disappearing jobs in other places in government. And that's the way businesses work, decent businesses work, and that's the way our government should work. Yeah, well, education is one of the things that is one of the stupidest things you can cut. You know, because one of the tough things about democracy is that there's always an incentive to do things that look good in the short term and hurt you in the long term. And that's why we underinvest in things like education or neonatal care. You know, huge return on investment that we give up by not, or scientific research, long-term scientific research. And so the problem is that if you can run for office next for re-election, saying, see, I cut the budget, I'm such a hero, okay, and not acknowledge the long-term damage that did. And that's, you know, that's really what part of the education fight is about, and why I'm always on that side. Always.
Thank you.